Anytime you're shortcutting it, you're probably cheating some people. Players play. Tough players win.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Centered Podcast. For those of you joining us for the first time ever, my name is Anthony Ianni, and I am a former Michigan State basketball player, as well as the first Division I college basketball player in NCAA history with an autism diagnosis. If this is the first time you're joining the show, we welcome you. If you'd like to check out other episodes of the Centered Podcast, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, as well as Odyssey.com. If you would like to see today's video interview or other video interviews of the Centered Podcast, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is the Centered Podcast. Once again, I want to thank Dan Miller at Fox 2 News and current Detroit Lions play-by-play commentator for coming on the show. Just an incredible conversation we have. But today's show, I teased it before I interviewed Xavier Tillman how this was going to be our most stacked month for guests. And we had Xavier Tillman to start. We had Dan Miller. And to throw the cherry on top is a guy who I think is one of the best college basketball analysts, as well as the best color commentators in the game for ESPN, the Big Ten Network. He is a former Purdue Boilermaker, and that is Robbie Hummel. And when I asked Robbie to come on the podcast, he didn't hesitate, and I was super excited about this because, you know, I said something during a Michigan State game that the one thing, and Michigan State was playing really bad at the time. I said the one thing I've enjoyed about this Michigan State game the most is the color commentating by Robbie Hummel, because Robbie tells it how it is. He's a realist. He calls it like it is. He's just awesome at his job, and he responded. And so I want to have Robbie on the podcast. And for those of you that don't know who Robbie Hummel is, he is from the great Valparaiso, Indiana, where he went to Valparaiso High School, played under the great coach Bob Hunter, where he averaged close to 16 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists a game. He was a 4-star recruit, according to Rivals.com. He was a top 100, top 75 player in the country of 2007, where he ended up going to Purdue University. And his credentials at Purdue University as we know as Michigan State fans, are incredible. First team Big Ten All-Freshman team in 2008, a 3-time first team All-Big Ten in 2008, 10, and 12, third team All-Big Ten in 2009, second team All-American honorable mention. He was also the senior class award winner in 2012 as well, as he should be, and finished an incredible career. Finished in the top 10 for points, top 5 for rebounds, had over 268 assists, 132 steals, 112 blocks, and he's the only Boilermaker to reach such numbers in each category. So, like I said, an incredible career. He was drafted by the Minnesota Timberwolves in the 2012 NBA draft, where he also played professionally in Spain, Italy, and Russia. He was also on the gold medal 3-on-3 World Cup FIBA team for the United States in 2019, and he was also named the 2019 Athlete of the Year for the USA men's basketball. So just an incredible, incredible career, and he's got an incredible career in front of him right now. He's already becoming one of the best color commentators and analysts in the game today, and I'm super excited to have on the Center Podcast former Purdue Boilermaker great and current college basketball analyst and color commentator for ESPN and Big Ten Network, Robbie Hummel. Let's get into it. So, Robbie, my first guest ever on the podcast was a Michigan Wolverine. And then a lot of my other guests have been current or former Michigan State Spartans. So you are actually the first Big Ten athlete outside of Michigan State. So you're kind of like the first Purdue Boilermaker to ever come on the show, man. So I appreciate you coming on.
I'm honored. I'm honored to be the first outside of Michigan to grace your podcast. So thank you for having me on.
No problem, man. So you're getting ready for TBT, right?
Yes. So I'm in Columbus. We play Friday, the TBT selection committee did us no favors. We got Tennessee in the first round, and we've got the Ohio State guys if we win. And obviously,
man.
Ohio State has been really good in this tournament, and we're in Columbus, so they'll have the home court advantage. But hey, when I was in college, we won in Columbus my junior year.
There you
so we
go.
won it before, so we can lean on that.
Now, are you guys going to play at Nationwide Arena? Where are you guys going to play at?
No, last year they did, and then
Okay.
I believe we're playing in like the wrestling arena here. It's not volleyball because volleyball plays the old basketball one. I think we're in a different one than that. I believe it's wrestling, but I'm not 100% sure. But it's on Ohio State's campus.
Okay, so so before we get into your days growing up in Valparaiso, like how did TBT decide that? So like I saw the other day that Wichita State hosted their game. So are they allowing college campuses to host the games this year?
So I think it's based off of kind of how good is your team and what kind of following does your team have. I announced the TBT three or 4 years ago. I might be the first guy to ever announce it and then come back and play in it, which is the reverse order of how it should go. But when I announced it, Columbus was hosting it as well. Now, it was not on Ohio State's campus. It was at this Division II or III school in Columbus, and the facilities were really nice. But it was great because they were packing Ohio State's games. Like when Ohio State played, they were selling it out. And I'm sure that's how it will be when they play after us Friday night. So I know Purdue has got a good following. We're going to have a good amount of people here. And then I'm sure it'll kind of be like a high school sectional game where for us, we're the early game. So you'll have like 4 fan bases there and it will be a really good environment. And then I'm sure a lot of people will stick around to watch Ohio State after us.
Those were the days right there, man, playing high school regionals and sectional games, man. Those were the fun days right there, man.
No doubt. Nothing better than that.
So let's get into it, man. So you're from Valparaiso, Indiana. So a lot of us know that Indiana, the state of Indiana is like, in my opinion, and maybe anybody else's in your hometown state, is the basketball state in all of America. So kind of tell us a little bit, what was it like growing up, not just in the basketball state of Indiana, but growing up in a town like Valparaiso, Indiana?
Yeah, I mean, basketball is such a big part of the city. And I was really fortunate. I as a kid, Bryce Drew, who made the really famous shot in the NCAA tournament for Valpo University in 1998, he went to Valpo High School. So
really,
from a young age, my parents took me to the boys games, the girls games at Valpo High School, and we had a great girls program as well as a boys one. So going down to state multiple times for both of those teams, getting to go to the high school games on Friday and Saturday nights. There's so many kids now where they'll transfer or they'll leave a year early and reclassify. And I can't ever imagine doing that because to me, I grew up playing with the same guys from 5th grade on, played AAU together. There's 2 middle schools in Valpo, so we played against each other. Then we get to high school, and I've known these guys forever. And, man, I wouldn't give my senior year up for that. And I know it's not always like that for some of these kids. We were playing, and, my high school gym seats like 4,500 people. And in Indiana, that's not even big. That's probably not getting you in the top 30 biggest gyms in the state. But we would have games where we'd have sellouts. So, you're looking at playing in college-like atmospheres. There's student sections. You're playing with your best friends. I'd known my high school coach since I was a little kid. He actually taught my mom when she was in middle school. So there's just a big part of it. And it's just a special deal. It really matters. And I have such good memories of going to the high school games on Friday and Saturday nights and, whether it's with my friends or my parents, but I cannot imagine ever transferring or leaving or going to prep school or going to college a year early and skipping your senior year. I had 2 goals as a kid. It was to make the varsity at Valpo High School and be an Indiana All-Star. And Indiana has a really cool series with Kentucky that goes back a ton of years where you play a game in Indiana, you play a game in Kentucky. And it's a huge honor to make that team. So those are my 2 goals as a kid that I set for myself for my high school kind of days. And, that really mattered to me. It was really special. And I'm very appreciative of the fact that I got to play high school basketball in the state of Indiana.
It's funny you bring up how today's younger generation of kids, especially here in the state of Michigan, where a lot of the really great high school talent, they don't stick around at their high school. They go right to the prep schools.
Yeah.
And the reasons are either for, better competition or they want to get looked at. But at the same time, if you look at a basketball city in the state of Michigan like Flint, where Morris Peterson, Mateen, and Antonio Smith guys came, Flint back in the day was a big time basketball town.
Totally.
Oh, it's not, because like you said, you see a lot of those high skilled, talented kids, they're leaving their cities, leaving their high schools to go to, I don't want to say greener pastures, but like go into all these different prep schools to play the higher level. But it's different, man. It really is. When you and I, because you and I graduated high school the same year. I think you were 07, correct?
Yep.
I was 07 too. And from when we were in high school, like you wanted to beat the school down the road.
Totally.
Beat your rival high school. And we were
well, let me cut you off. You know who my rival high school and rival is?
Who?
Cheston High School, Zach Novak. So I totally get it. Like, you want to beat their brains in. There's no love lost. And I totally get what you're saying. I've totally been there.
No, and I feel like just today, and this is just my opinion, I feel like today's younger generation players, they leave because I don't think they want to step up to the plate sometimes and kind of be that LeBron or Michael Jordan type of player that kind of wills their team to championships in high school. So, I mean, your take on that?
Yeah, I think also there's the grass is always greener type thing. You look at some of these prep schools, and I think some of these kids get sold a bill of goods in a sense where it's like, hey, come here and you'll get recruited by everybody. And I mean, you still got to be good. Like that's part you can. But I've also seen guys transfer to schools and get buried on the bench. You go to a place like Oak Hill, or you go down to Florida to some of those prep schools down there that are really high level basketball programs, or even in the Northeast where there's so many. And there's a lot of good players there. And certainly it's an iron sharpens iron type thing where when you're playing against competition like that day in and day out, it's going to help you, but you still got to get in the game,
Right.
You still got to get in the game to play. So I think it's hard. There are kids that are getting steered directions that maybe it's not totally their choice. There's people that are running that show. And I understand where there's some situations where, hey, this is better for me. And I think that any kid, if it's the case, should do that. But I know in my situation, I was never going to feel like that. Oak Hill could have come calling. I'd have been like, man, I'm not leaving this. Like, I've been playing with these guys since I was in sixth grade. So it's everybody's situation is different, but there is something to be said about those things are talent factories. You look at the DeMathas, the Oak Hills, the Brewsters,
Huntington,
a lot of good players. IMG, the list goes on and on and on. There's studs there. It's like playing AAU basketball year round. And to me, I felt like I'm going to get that exposure with my AAU team. I played for SYF. We're a Nike team. We played on the circuit. We had Luke Herringody. We had Etwan Moore. We had Jamil Tucker, who went to Virginia. Tyrone Appleton ended up at Kansas. Like we had really good players. So I got that. I got to see that level of competition in the summer. But I'm thankful that I got to play for my high school team in the winter.
So was basketball your main sport that you always played as a kid, or were you involved in other sports as well?
Yeah, I played a lot of sports. I was actually a really good runner, but I hated it. I ran the mile in under 5 minutes as an eighth grader. I ran a 4:56. I was an okay baseball player as a kid. By the time we got to high school, I wasn't amazing by any means, but I liked to play. So I stopped playing to play AU basketball as a freshman. I played tennis my freshman and sophomore year. My dad played college tennis in Illinois, so I grew up playing a little bit of that. I wish I'd played more golf because now I love to play golf. And it's like, man,
you and me both.
I'd be so much better if my dad had made me go and he'd ask all those summer nights where it's like, Rob, I'm going to the course. I'd be like, man, I'm playing capture the flag in the neighborhood. I'm not trying to go play golf with you. Now it's like, I wish I had. But basketball was always my favorite sport. I love to play. The kids in my neighborhood, there was a couple different houses that had either hoops in the driveway or hoops in the backyard. So we played a ton, and it was definitely my sport of choice. Now, it was kind of crazy because like on my sixth grade AAU team, I was probably like the 10th best player on our team, but I hadn't really grown yet. As an eighth grader, I'm 5'8". And then going into my freshman year, I'm 6'5". So I go from being a specialist shooter that's a guard to all of a sudden I'm one of the bigger kids in my grade, but I have all guard skills. I didn't know how to post up until I was a pro. I didn't post up in college. I just didn't.
Right.
I've never done it. I wish I had. When Bruce Weber's throwing Chester Frazier on me, and I'm like, what am I supposed to do now? Like it's a problem. But nobody had really taught me how to post, and I was a guard. I played point guard on my high school team, some of my junior and senior years. So it was definitely my favorite sport, but I really enjoyed others too. I like to play a little bit of everything.
So when did it come to the realization for you that, okay, I'm this good, I think I could play at the next level? Like, when did that first hit you?
It was definitely my sophomore year. So I made the varsity, and at my high school, do you remember Scott Martin?
Yeah, I do.
Purdue with us, and then transferred to Notre Dame. Scott was my high school team. So I've played with Scott. I played soccer with Scott in like second grade. Like I've known him forever. And him and I were playing in the varsity as sophomores, and our team was really, really good. And we were playing Maryville High School, which is a pretty good school in our conference. We were playing them basically in a game late in February for the conference championship. Winner was going to win the league. And I got a steal and went up, and one of my AU teammates, his name's Greg Hill. He actually was supposed to come to Purdue with us, but then ended up not being able to. Ended up going to TCU.
Mm-hmm.
He came and was running me down, and I went up and I dunked it. And it was like that was the moment where I started getting heavily recruited. After the season, I got an offer from Valpo and Homer Drew. And that's kind of the game where I was like, I really think that I'm going to play college basketball. There's VU starting to come recruit me. I'm playing AU now for this Nike team. I played up on the 17 and under with Etuan both years. So I started getting recruited. Northwestern started recruiting me. I started going to elite camps. That's when the Big Ten schools, other than Northwestern, started recruiting me. So I think that was like the moment where I was like, I really think I'm going to play at a fairly high level in college.
So now you're into the recruiting process. You're getting recruited by a lot of these schools, like you mentioned, and the Big Ten, for the exception of Northwestern, as you mentioned, are looking at you. Who were kind of the five Big Ten schools other than Purdue and Indiana that were kind of looking at you?
Yeah, so Northwestern offered early, and then I got an offer from Indiana and Mike Davis. I played really well at their elite camp. Coach Payne offered me at Purdue. Actually, didn't offer me the first time I visited. He had an offer.
Really?
Named Marcus Johnson, who ended up, I believe, going to Tennessee and then transferred to NC State. But he was a big-time player out of Fort Wayne. Mm-hmm. But he was honest about it. Like he said, I really like you, but I've got this offer out to this kid, and I might not have a scholarship for you. So, depending on what he does, we'll be in touch. But we really like you. And I honestly appreciated his honesty. It wasn't a negative thing. Iowa offered me after their elite camp. And those were all my Big Ten offers, I believe. I visited Michigan State for Midnight Madness. I actually had a great weekend. I went to Michigan State, and I remember Tom Izzo rolling in a tank.
Yeah.
And then my parents and I drove down to South Bend, and we visited Notre Dame for the USC Bush Push game.
Really?
So, it was quite the couple-day experience. But I never got offered by Michigan State. I visited Illinois multiple times. And I honestly really wanted to go because my dad played tennis there. Right. My grandfather is a professor there. And my grandparents still live in Champaign. All my aunts and uncles went there, and I they're coming off the D. Brown, Darren Williams team. Mm-hmm. So if they had offered, it might have been a game changer for me, but they never did. And looking back, it was the best thing that ever could have happened to me. But those were the Big Ten schools that were really recruiting me.
I'm going to ask you this question just because I think it'd be fun to ask it. If Tom Izzo would have offered you, would you have been in East Lansing?
I would have highly considered it for sure.
Okay.
I mean, at that point in time, Michigan State and Illinois were probably the cream of the crop in the league, and Michigan State certainly has been there ever since. But those would have been two that would have been really, really attractive to me. The funny thing is, so I played against Isaiah Dahlman in AAU.
Yeah, Zeke.
Yes. And at the time, he was one of the best. He was one of the best players I'd ever seen. Like I know he got injured and got banged up, but he's playing for Howard Pulley in my first AAU tournament. And I've never played in the national circuit. I have no idea what this is about. And, you're looking at these guys in this other team. There's some big time athletes. So I get put in the game and I'm like, sweet, I'm guarding the guy that kind of looks like me, right? And this dude goes for 35. And I'm like,
oh my.
I'm like, dude, if this guy's doing this, what am I going to do? And it's unfortunate that he got injured and it was kind of never the same, I think, physically. Because in high school, at the time, he was ranked in the top 10 in his class or top 15, top 20. He was a stud. So I knew he was going there. And I was like, man, I've seen him. So I get why they're not recruiting me. I understand.
So who was kind of your final three, final four?
Yeah. So I had a strange recruitment in the sense that a lot of the schools that I really liked had these like seismic changes. Like I really liked Mike Davis in Indiana, and he did a great job recruiting me, him and Donnie Marsh, who was his lead assistant. And then he gets kind of run out, basically gets fired. He resigns or whatever, but he was fired. I really liked NC State. I had an offer down there to play for Herb Sendak, and he just up and leaves and goes to Arizona State. I didn't want to play in the Pac-12 unless I would have listened to like Arizona and of course UCLA, but I just hated the fact that you never saw him on TV. I grew up in Big Ten country. If I was going anywhere that I could like choose, it was going to be the ACC, the Big East, or the Big Ten. Like I wanted to stay in the East Coast or the Midwest. So when he went out west, that was kind of out the window for me. I was a ball boy for Homer Drew, in like the post Bryce Drew era. I was the most diehard Valpo fan ever. Like, I would look at the RPI weekly and I would not comprehend the fact that strength of schedule matters. So Valpo would go on the road and be like Southern Utah and like UMKC on like this road trip, and they'd go down. I'd be like, man, this ranking system is shit. Like, how are we winning games and going down? Or I'd get really upset in the video games when, the black players would be white and the white, I'd be like, they didn't pay attention to Valpo. Like I really cared, when they were screwing the team up, they've got, the wrong numbers for players. And so I loved VU, and they were in my top four. And if honestly, they were going to the NCAA tournament regularly, like they had been when I was a kid, I might have gone. But it was one of those deals where they weren't going as consistently. And Purdue did a really good job recruiting me, and Etwan and Scott from our AU team. So at the end of the day in my recruitment, it made the most sense for me to go to Purdue.
What was it about Purdue and Coach Painter that really kind of sold you instantly?
Yeah, I mean, his honesty for sure. He was a guy that he was going to shoot you straight. I really appreciated that. I think just the way he went about doing things, and he never promised me anything, but he did say, I promise you're going to have an opportunity to come in here and contribute a ton from day one, which I appreciated that as well. There was certainly plenty of playing time to offer. Purdue was not like playing well at that point. And after we committed my senior year of high school, Purdue ended up making the NCAA tournament with Carl Landry and David Teague. And they honestly had a really good season. Gave Florida all they wanted in the NCAA tournament. So I appreciated the way he coached his teams, even when he took over for Gene Cady and they weren't good. They played hard. And I just thought that we could kind of be a class that turned the tides there. I really believed in Coach Painter. And then the fact that we had Etwan, myself, Scott Martin, Juwan Johnson all coming, the three of us, myself, Etwan, Scott, we played for SYF. And then we knew Juwan well from the Indiana Junior All-Stars. And then also just, playing against his AAU team multiple times my sophomore and junior year, I'd become friends with him as well. So I really liked where that was going. And then they had two really good young players in Keaton Grant and Chris Kramer. So it was, you could see that things were getting better. And I really believed in Coach Painter's vision in that.
So before I ask about your freshman year, what was one thing that your high school coach, Bob Punter, what was the one thing that you really took from him, not just as a player, but as a person? Because like you said, you've known him for a long time. You knew him since you were a kid. So what were kind of the one or two things I would say that you took away from him?
Yeah, I think acting right, being on time, doing the right things. He certainly preached that. When I think about Coach Punter, in his life, he had some things happen to him that were really, honestly bad. and I know this because my mom, knew him so well. He was married to his first wife, and she had a brain aneurysm and passed away. And, the way he handled that when he has young kids, and that was in the 70s or 80s. It was a long time ago. But I think just to be able to put things in perspective, in 1994, that Bryce Drew team, they led South Bend Clay in the state championship at the RCA Dome by like 10 with a minute to go. It's on YouTube. I've watched the game a couple of times. I'd seen it in high school, and I've, on nights where I get in this YouTube rabbit hole, I found it there too. And South Bend Clay had Jerron Cornell. They had Lee Nalon. So Jerron played at Purdue. Lee Nalon played in the NBA for like 12 or 15 years. And Valpo blows this 10-point lead and loses in overtime in the state championship in the RCA Dome with like 40,000 people there. I mean, I was there. I was 4 years old. I wish I remembered. Well, maybe I don't wish I remembered because the way I was there with my parents. And I do think that, seeing him I didn't see him go through the death of his first wife, but hearing about it and understanding that, I think you kind of see that, there is more to life than basketball. And certainly you don't want to lose games like that. But life does go on. And I think that was a lesson that we kind of learned from him, just from observing the way that he handled that.
It's funny you say that because, my high school coach is kind of the same way. Dan Stoltz was my high school coach in Okemos, Michigan. And we were playing for the state championship my junior year. And at the Breslin Center in front of 15,000 people, it was sold out because, my hometown is literally like, 8 minutes from the Breslin Center, so right next door. So we lost in double overtime by 1 point. But we actually kind of got hosed on we call it the Phantom 5-second call. So our point guard had the ball, and there's a referee in front of him over here on his left, but the referee behind him away from the play was counting. Now, as you know today, like if you cross a guy over and the defender backs off, the count's off. Counts.
3 stars or it's off totally.
Yep. So that's what happened here. He backed up, guy backs off, ref's still counting, nobody's looking at the ref. He calls 5 seconds. They go down and score with like 3 seconds to go. Right. And we could have easily complained to the media that day that, hey, we got hosed, it was a bad call, we should be state champs. But he came in the locker room and said, you guys should be state champs, but don't let this game affect how your life goes forward.
Sure.
And like kind of like your coach, like, life goes on and you got to keep moving forward. Like don't daunt on the past, just kind of keep moving forward each and every single day.
Yeah, no, and I think that was a good lesson. And even like today, I played 3-on-3 basketball, and we were supposed to be the favorites to qualify for the Olympics. And we went over there a couple months ago, and we didn't. And, you're upset. And I think the thing I always think is, man, the sun did come up the next day. Like
there you go.
Disappointments. It's life goes on, and it's okay for it to hurt because, of course, if it didn't, winning wouldn't feel good.
Yeah.
But it is a tough pill to swallow at times. But I do credit Coach Punter for kind of teaching us that and just being a good role model in general. He's a really good guy.
I love that. So let's get into your days at Purdue, man. So a lot of people ask me all the time, like, how were the practices at Michigan State? And I always said intense. How would you describe the practices at Purdue?
Intense. I give Coach Painter a hard time now because I say you're too nice to the players, which I think is every former player's gripe, right? Everybody thinks the college coach is too nice to the current players. But yeah, plenty. We did the Gene Katie conditioning program my freshman year, and it was the hardest 6 weeks of my life. I mean, the amount of running that we did, and I think we kind of ran out of gas my freshman year, partly because you talk about the freshman wall. We didn't play as well late in the year as we had been playing in the middle of it. And we had a game, we played Xavier in the NCAA tournament that year, and we shot just horribly. And I do think that we were a little bit fatigued by the end of the season, and that was probably a part of it, on top of being freshmen and not kind of understanding what the deal is. But yeah, we had intense practices. Etwan Moore looked like he was running in quicksand after the weeks. Like he could not move, and the cold tub became his best friend, and he kind of got back to normal. But yes, it was intense, but it was also the most fun year because it was so unexpected. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we lose Carl Landry, we lose David Teague. We've got a good young core, but you're depending on 4 freshmen, 2 sophomores, and a junior college transfer to play, and I would say 1 junior and Marcus Green to play the bulk of the time. And the season started out, it didn't start out great. We lost to Wofford at home. We lost to Iowa State and Las Vegas, who got last in the Big 12 that year. And then we beat Missouri State, where they just missed a layup at the buzzer in the consolation game of that Vegas Christmas tournament. So we weren't like lighting the world on fire. And, we found a way to beat Michigan at home. And then we lost to you guys up in East Lansing in a close game. And then we won like 12 Big Ten games in a row. And it was like something just clicked after New Year's where we started playing really, really good. So it was kind of unexpected. And to me, there was no expectations really. So that was a really fun season.
And I think that's always one of the most dangerous teams too, not just on all levels of basketball, pro, high school, and college, is a team that has no expectations going into the season. I've always think that teams like that are the most dangerous, and you don't want to like mess with teams like that because if you're having a bad night, they're going to come out and pop you by like 20.
Totally. It was just one of those deals where every game we won, we got a little more confident, and it really, I think, set the tone for the rest of our years at Purdue, where it was just expected that we were going to be, ranked in the top 15 in the country and contend for a Big Ten title.
And not just as a team, but your freshman year, you were first team all Big Ten. You were all freshmen as well in the Big Ten. Kind of talk about that a little bit. When you look at that, do you look at that and go, yeah, that's a nice accomplishment, but there's still more work that needs to be done?
Yeah, totally. And I would tell you that going into my freshman year, my only goal was to like get minutes of any kind, like to find a way to the floor. I was ranked in the top 65 or 70 players in our class, but I wasn't a 5-star player. I thought I played hard, and I think I got a lot better actually between my senior year and freshman year of high school. But yeah, I just was hoping that I could get on the court. So to be first team all Big Ten was certainly a surprise. But it was kind of like our team. Every game we played, I got more confident. For whatever reason, I played really well against the ranked teams in our league that year. You guys, Indiana, Ohio State. Those were the games that I played probably the best in that year. Wisconsin was really good that season. I played really well against them in both games. So for whatever reason, I think my confidence just grew tenfold, and that's a very powerful thing for somebody who, on my high school team, I was the second option because Scott was such a dangerous scorer, and I played kind of that point guard role. And then on my AU team, you're looking at Luke Herringody, who's, a scoring machine, and Etwan Moore is a scoring machine, and Jameel Tucker at that time, he led the Peach Jam in scoring my first year of playing at AU. So I didn't really need to score. I needed to set those guys up, make open shots, defend. Then all of a sudden it just kind of clicked for me. So it was certainly a great accomplishment, I think. At the same time, the league had lost a lot from the year before.
Yeah.
You think about like Odin and Conley getting out of there, Alonzo Tucker leaving. So there was certainly some space on that team. It wasn't sewn up before the year started, I would say. But at the same time, I played well in the big games, and I think that it was, like you said, a good achievement, but I knew that I needed to work on my game and get better.
And fast forward to your sophomore year, man. I mean, another really good year for you guys. And not only that, but you won the Big Ten tournament title, which I think set the tone for your guys, for you, Etwan Moore, and Juwan Johnson's junior years after that.
Totally. It was and getting to the Sweet 16 did as well. And the crazy thing about that Big Ten tournament was we weren't playing well going into it. We lost to Northwestern at home on senior night, and I played 3-on-3 with Craig Moore still, and he literally talks about the game all the time. I hate the fact that we lost to those guys. So we lose to them, unfortunately, and then we go up to you guys, and it was on my birthday. It's March 8th. We're playing you guys, end of the year, and it was a weird game. Like, you guys didn't blow us out, but we were never actually in it in the second half. Like, it was like 8 to 10 points the whole time, but we kept making these crazy shots at the end. And the thing I remember about the game is Coach Izzo kept taking your guys' seniors out for what seemed like it was going to be their like last time on the floor. So like Marquise Gray, Goran Sutan, I think Edong Ibach.
Yep.
Those guys kept kissing the floor. And then they get put back in because like somebody would make a three and cut it to like, you know, and he was going offense, defense. So I think Sutan kissed the floor like 3 times. It's like, it was just one of those games where we did not play great, you know? So those were the 2 games we had going into the Big Ten tournament. And it was just like, I have no idea what happened, but we blow out Penn State. We kind of blow out Illinois. And then we play Ohio State in a tough one for the championship. And that was a really cool day. And winning the Big Ten tournament is a cool experience because you win, you're the last game before Selection Sunday. You cut the nets down, you go watch the selection show. And then you find out where you're going. It was one of the most fun days that I think I had at Purdue in terms of, you know, winning that, getting to go back to campus. Everybody was on spring break. So we kind of had a get together at one of my teammates' houses, and it was just only the guys on the team. And then like one of my teammates' sisters was there. Like it wasn't people outside of our kind of Purdue basketball family, but it was so fun just thinking about, you know, what just happened and what, you know, is coming up in the next week or two. And then we're able to win our 2 NCAA tournament games to go to the Sweet 16. We beat Washington in Portland in the most non-neutral court game you'll ever have. And they were loaded. You know, they got Isaiah Thomas, they got John Brockman, they've got Quincy Pondexter, they've got Justin Holiday. I mean, it was a really good win. And unfortunately, we run into UConn, who you guys beat, I think, in the Final Four.
Semis, yeah, the Final Four.
Yeah, and they were talented. I mean, Thabit was a problem for us, and you know, Jeff Adrian, Stanley Robinson, Kemba Walker's their 6th man. I played with AJ Price and with the Timberwolves, and he was a really good player. So it was it was a tough one for us, but that did really give us confidence. I think winning that Big Ten tournament and then getting to the Sweet 16, I think we felt like, all right, we've paid our dues. You know, we lost in the second round as freshmen. Now we get to the Sweet 16 and break through. Next year is our time. Like in the Final Four in Indianapolis too. So we felt really good about what we had accomplished.
And like your junior year, like I've told people this all the time. I really believe that us and you guys were bound to play in Indy that year. To this day, I still truly believe that. And the way that you guys started off the season red hot was just incredible. And then you get to the game at Minnesota. And I remember this like it was just yesterday, Rob, because we had practice, we had training table, we had meals, and then we all decided we were going to stick around, go watch the Purdue Minnesota game. Because if you remember, us, you guys, and Ohio State it was basically a three-man race
Totally.
to find out who was going to finish first in the Big Ten.
Yep.
And I think at the time, and I could be wrong, I think at the time, us and Ohio State, we were a game behind you guys.
Or a half game maybe.
Yeah, something like that.
We controlled our own kind of destiny to win.
Yeah. So we were up in the film room watching your guys' game, and obviously we want Minnesota to win because we want to put another banner in the Brez.
Totally.
And when you went down, I swear our entire film room was just dead silent because we were all like, damn, like, no, like, you know, the way Robbie's been playing this year, the way these guys have been playing, like, no, this is not what we want. I mean, do we want to win? Yeah, but like,
right.
Not this way, man. And so what was kind of going through your head at that time when you went down with the ACL?
Yeah. So Minnesota is an interesting place for me. Like my grandparents are from there. I've been to a billion family reunions in Minneapolis. You know, I had like 20 people at the game because Minnesota is probably the easiest game to get tickets from your teammates from because it's a long ass way from West Lafayette. So nobody's really driving up there unless they're really, you know, dedicated to the deal. So I had a bunch of my teammates give me tickets because I got so many aunts and uncles up there and cousins. And yeah, you know, the game starts out and we're playing so well. And you know what? The one thing I remember Damian Johnson?
Yes.
He had this quote in the Minneapolis Star-Tribune that we read that morning before shoot around where he was like, we don't, you know, we think we're on the same level as Purdue. We don't get the hype. Even though we beat those guys, but like 15 Mackey, like, so we were like, all right, like we've got something to prove here. And of course, on top of getting a 1 seed because we're ranked 3rd in the country, we're 22 and winning the league, where we can win it outright. In a year where winning it outright would be a hell of an achievement, because you guys were Final Four good, obviously, and honestly, Ohio State was too. Yeah. Ohio State, they I think made it the Sweet 16, but they were a team that was good enough to make a run. So we had plenty of motivation, and I started the game off. I was on fire. I think I had 11 points in the first 8 minutes of the game. It was one of those nights where I was like, I feel like I could really put up a big number and we could put this away early, because we were up a substantial amount there in the first half. Yeah. And, you look back at that play, and Etwan Moore gets the ball. He could shoot, he could drive, he passes to me. It's like, what if he just jacks a bad one? Like, he's done it before. I wish he had. But I drive into the lane, and my knee kind of buckles, and it honestly felt like my knee blew up. Like it was painful. The feeling of it was kind of crazy. It was like in slow motion. And, I go down, they pick me up. They, how Williams Arena is at the barn. They got to take you down the stairs. Oh, yeah. They kind of like carry me down the stairs, and I get in their training room, and as bad as it hurt initially, after a couple minutes, like, the pain was gone. So they had their orthopedic guy doing those tests and kind of checking me out. And I'm like, Doc, I feel pretty good. I think I can go back in. Like, my knee doesn't hurt anymore. And he kind of gave me the yeah, not tonight, son. Like, didn't want to tell me, hey, I'm almost 100% sure your ACL is torn, but he kind of, I guess, let me down easy there. And I think deep down, I knew something was seriously wrong. Like, I'd never had anything like that happen to me before. And it was in the back of my mind. I think I knew, but I didn't want to believe that, just because we were playing so well. And we, like you had said earlier, we won our first 14 games. Then we lost 3 in a row, and then we won like 9 or 10 straight. Yep. So we were playing really well, and we had a really experienced team. We've got myself, Juwan, and Etwan, who are playing at a first or second team all league level. You have Chris Kramer, who's the defensive player there in the conference. Kelsey Barlow's on the all freshman team. Like, we had a really deep, good team. And the worst part is, not knowing. Yeah. I'd rather be a Virginia-like deal and us be a 1 seed and you lose to a 16 than what happened to us. Because at least then you're like, hey, we had all our guys and we played, and we just played like crap. At least that's you can live with that. But it stinks not knowing, because I agree with you. I think that both of our teams easily could have met in Indianapolis with the Final Four on the line, because we were both really talented and had great chemistry. We were well coached. It's too bad, because that was our year to kind of do it with the junior and senior class that we had, and unfortunately, we just didn't get the chance.
And like I said, man, and I said it to Brandon Dawson, and I don't know if you remember Brandon or
not. Of course. You're Indiana legend.
There you go. When he tore his ACL against Ohio State on me, Draymond Green, Austin Thornton, and Brandon Wood's senior day.
Yep.
He went down, like it was just like the air was just let out of Breslin Center. And to this day, I still tell people, had Brandon Dawson not got hurt, we would have went to the Final Four that year. Yep. Because we played Louisville in the Sweet 16, a team that we probably should have beat. We could have beaten them easily if Brandon was healthy.
Sure.
And we would have had to play Florida or Marquette, probably would have won that game. And then we're playing Kentucky in the Final Four.
Right.
I don't think we would have beaten Kentucky because of how stacked they were. Will we have given them a run for their money? Absolutely. But, like with Brandon, and I say this with you guys, I really do think that you guys could have won. Actually, yeah, I believe this. You could have won the national championship that year. It was either us or you guys. And because I remember when we were playing at Purdue, I think we were playing at your guys' place. I think it was the following game, it was
the first game after I got hurt. It was like we played Minnesota on like a Thursday, and we had you guys on Sunday after.
Yep. So I had transferred from Grand Valley State before that season started.
Yep.
And so I couldn't travel, but I went to the game in West Lafayette, sat behind the bench, and I remember just all these fans holding up these signs, Final Four for Robbie, Final Four. And I said to myself, if he's healthy, they are in the Final Four.
Yeah.
It's just
tough, man. It's a tough deal. But again, like, life goes on, right? Like, you gotta keep moving on, and it's a part of it. People get hurt, and unfortunately, it happened to me twice.
So, well, you said twice. So talk about that real quick, because if you fast forward 5-6 months down the road, it's the same ACL. Is that so? Same ACL. So what happened exactly?
Yeah, so I have surgery on my 21st birthday, which
Of all the days for you to have
all the days, like I have ACL surgery on my 21st birthday in Indianapolis, and it didn't like go well. You know, it was a complicated process in terms of like, you know, you come out of surgery, and with the NCAA rules at that time, you could only be on, like, the coaches couldn't work you out in the summer, right?
Right.
And your training staff can be out on the floor with you, but they don't have a basketball background. So I needed to get to somebody who could like work me out, but also knew what they were looking for. And you really couldn't do that with the way the NCAA rules were at that time. So I had some issues with my knee, and we were trying to get me back because we were preseason ranked number 2 because E'Twaun Moore comes back, Juwan Johnson comes back.
Everybody's back.
So they're back, and I'm trying to get back to start the season. And the first day of practice, you know, I go up to contest a layup, and I just land, and I retore it, and I knew it, and it didn't hurt at all. It just, I knew the feeling, and it's hard because we're practicing at the co-rec, which is Purdue's rec center. The women, we didn't have the practice facility then, so the women were practicing in Mackey, and we're at the student rec center, and it's a football Saturday, and we're playing Minnesota. So it's like the curse is just everywhere, right? And I have to get in like a little golf cart and be driven back to Mackey, and like people are like, you know, I'm like devastated, of course. People are like, Robbie, you know, like yelling at me because they see the cart, and I'm just sitting in there, and you know, I'm like, damn, I'm done for the year again. And at that point, you're like, I may never play basketball ever again. I'm one more. I'll try this again, but this happens a third time. I probably would have been like, dude, let's just go get a job, you know, because you can only do this so many times where you put all your effort into rehabbing and not playing, and you're on the sideline. And when you're hurt, like, you're on the team, but you don't necessarily feel like you are. Like, I think Josh Langford dealt with that probably some at Michigan State, where like you love the guys, but you're not going through the daily like grind of practice. You're sitting there, and you're disconnected. So that was really hard for me. But yeah, you know, you're one ACL tear away from being like, dude, I'm hanging it up, and I might not even play at like a recreational level. You know, who knows? So my dad really did some research, and Purdue was good about letting me go wherever I wanted to have my second surgery. And I narrowed it down to David Alchek in New York, James Andrews down. He was in Birmingham at the time.
Yeah.
Andrews does everybody. We looked at Stedman out in Vail, who has kind of had some, I think, mixed results here lately.
Right.
He had the Gallinari thing where they didn't fix his ACL, and they just like poked holes in it, and it didn't work, and he had to have surgery. And then also El Atrachi out in LA. And those were like the big name doctors. And I ended up going with Alchek in New York. And honestly, David Alchek saved my basketball career. He did my ACL. He did a meniscus that I had to have when I was in Spain. I came home, had a quick meniscus repair, and then went back and played. And then he did my shoulder too. So I've kept them in business. The hospital for special surgery has gotten plenty of business from me. But he honestly saved my career. It was a much better experience than my first surgery, I would say. There was some political things that were going on at Purdue with that made that difficult. But yeah, Alchek was great. He's a really good doctor, and you know, he's done a lot of high level guys in the NBA and in Major League Baseball, and he did a great job. So I was able to get back and play, which I'm incredibly thankful for.
So did you ever did retirement ever come into your mind before that surgery?
If I had gotten hurt again, totally it would have. But at that point, no. I was gung-ho about, I want to play again, you know. And I think people that have played in the Big Ten can appreciate this. I wanted to get back out and experience the rush of playing in these places again. Like, you play at Mackey, it is awesome. You play at Assembly Hall, whether that's in Champaign, because I won't call it the State Farm Center, or in Wilmington, those places are awesome. The Breslin Center is fantastic. You know, the Kohl Center is great. There's a rush to play in that. And I always think about the saying where you're like, you know why these musicians play until they're 80? Like if they can. That's why Paul McCartney's still playing, or the Rolling Stones.
Right.
It's awesome, right? Like that's a great feeling. So I wanted to get back. I wanted to play again. And at that point, you know, if I could stay healthy, no, I wanted to play. And I had a goal to get to the NBA. And I think in my junior year, I was playing as well as I had in my life. You know, I think it was a legitimate thing where I could have left after my junior season had we done what we needed to do in the NCAA tournament. But unfortunately, that you know, injury happens, and I really wanted to kind of prove to everybody and also myself that I could still get there even after I blew my knee out twice.
And you definitely did, man. I mean, you know, the first game we watched you play, you know, by we, I mean, us guys at Michigan State, we all looked at each other and said, this guy hasn't skipped a beat. Like he's playing at a high level. Like he's still shooting it like he can't miss. Like you were playing at a high level your senior year. And I think that was super impressive, man, with how you were out for like almost 2 years. You come back and it basically looked like, bang, you didn't skip a beat at all.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. You also saw me have my worst game of my college career when we played you guys at Michigan State. It's the only game
I remember that.
I did not make a field goal. I was 0 for 11. I think I made a free throw. I had 1 point.
Didn't you have to drive down that to
it is the most bogus trip of all time? Yeah. There was like this blizzard in West Lafayette, and we're trying to fly out. We keep getting, the plane keeps like freezing where they have to de-ice. It freezes.
Yep.
Freezes, which is kind of terrifying to think about, obviously.
Right.
And we couldn't take off. So at like midnight, we go back to Mackey, and they're like, hey, we're busting up at 4. So we both bust up to East Lansing. And actually, we were in it in the first, at halftime. I think it was a 4-point game. And I remember I got off the bus, and ESPN was doing the game. Dan Dockich was calling it.
Oh, no.
They put a camera and a microphone in my face. They go, Robbie, how you feel? And it's like, I've slept 2 hours. Like I'm literally gonna like shower and shave and play a Big Ten game here. And I was like, well, I'm kind of tired. And like he was like, this is not the right mindset. And it probably is not, but you know, it was tough. That was a tough deal to go up there. And you guys were really good. And it's one of the best atmospheres in college basketball. I remember Brandon Dawson had a dunk in the second half where it was just like we went down 30 points, and it was like, man, let's just get out of here, right? It was one of those days. But it was, my senior year was interesting because like I played okay, or I played pretty good to start, and then in January I was awful shooting the ball. I was shooting the ball so bad. I remember there was one game, I think it was Michigan. I played really poorly shooting it. And my dad gave my roommate his credit card and said, he told him, go down to the local steakhouse and get you guys a good steak because Rob needs it. So my parents, my friends, my girlfriend were trying to do whatever they could to just cheer me up. So I was like, man, I don't recognize myself. This is a totally different team. You know, Etuan, Jawan, Chris Kramer, Keaton Grant, those guys were all here the last time I played. And now it's just like, I'm kind of in a role I'm not familiar with or necessarily comfortable with. I'm playing awful. And luckily in February, my knee started feeling a lot better, like from a tendonitis standpoint, because that can be the issue with your ACL, right? Is your graft. You get your patella tendon cut out, and you can get really sore, almost like you have patella tendonitis. And fortunately, I started feeling better. I played really well in February. I had a good NCAA tournament, so that really helped me in terms of the draft. But our team played a lot better in February as well, so that helped me too.
And I mean, if you look at that year, man, first team All Big Ten, you know, the third time in your career, you were AP All-American honorable mention. You won the senior class award. And I mean, if you look at your career at Purdue, Robbie, it definitely is one of the great careers in my opinion, just based on how you started your career. You had obstacles and challenges along the way. You overcame those obstacles and challenges, and you went out your way like you wanted to.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you saying that. And I was very fortunate because I played for a coach who really cared about us. The people at Purdue were great, and I had great teammates. So I was very fortunate to get to be a part of that for sure.
So now you get to the draft. you're taken by the Minnesota Timberwolves. What was that feeling like?
Well, relief. So I hire Mark Bartelstein, who's a really good agent, and Mark represents a lot of Big Ten, Midwest guys that go to the NBA. And I remember asking, I worked out for like 14 NBA teams because I was like, I need to prove that my knee is going to hold up. So I do that. It was that's a grind because those workouts are high stress environments and you're going from city to city and you want to play well, right? So, I end up going into draft night and I asked Mark, I was like, should I have like a get together? Like all these, my friends, my family, they want to watch it together. Should I do that? And he's like, yeah, I'm confident you'll get drafted. Well, I thought I had a guarantee from Utah at like 51 or 52 and that fell through. So they take somebody else. And when that happened, I was like, oh my God, I might have to face all these people and not get drafted. And thank God the Timberwolves drafted me at 58th because I was a mess. I would have been like, dude, I don't know what to say. It would have been hard. I might have fired Mark. I might have fired him on the spot. But luckily that didn't happen. And the Timberwolves drafted me, and it was a fun night after that. But it was a stressful night leading up to it.
Oh, I can't even imagine, man. And so had a short stint in the NBA. You got to play overseas in Spain, Italy, and Russia. And then about a couple years ago, Robbie, maybe one of the top highlights of your career, and that was winning a gold medal for the United States in the FIBA 3-on-3 World Cup. I mean, and you were named USA Basketball's Male Athlete of the Year that year as well. So winning a gold medal, man, like, does that top winning a Big Ten championship?
If it was in the Olympics, yes. In the World Championships is a big deal. Don't get me wrong. That and the U.S. hadn't done it before in 3-on-3. I would put them like on par. I would say that because I really wanted to win a Big Ten championship, and I'm really glad that we got to win a tournament one and a regular season that we share with you guys in Ohio State. I would say it was on par with that. And it was a great accomplishment because the U.S. had kind of been behind in 3-on-3. Serbia had dominated. We beat Serbia in pool play, which was really, really cool for us. It was a great tournament. We had great chemistry. The four of us really kind of gelled on the fly together, and three of us. The team was Damon Huffman, who played at Brown, Canyon Barry, who played at Florida. It's Rick Barry's son, and then Kareem Maddox, who played at Princeton. I played with Damon and Kareem a lot. Canyon got added late to the team. He plays in the G League and has been there for a few years. But yeah, that was really, really cool. And to get to like stand on the podium and hear your national anthem. And I played in the World University Games for 5-on-5 in 2009, and we got bronze, and that was very disappointing. So to get a gold medal and to get to represent your country, every time you get to wear the USA basketball jersey, it's definitely an honor. And it's also one of those things where, like, after 2009, I was like, there's no way I'm going to, unless barring, me getting way better, I'm not going to make the national team for 5-on-5. It's usually reserved for all Hall of Famers, unless they turn it down, which like this year, you saw some of that. There's some injuries. Because I don't think, no offense to JaVale McGee, but he's a good player, but he's probably not a Hall of Famer.
JaVale McGee.
Yeah, maybe in chat size he is, but not So, I just being realistic, I thought that was going to be my last chance. And the 3-on-3 thing kind of came up, and to win a gold medal in that was really cool. And, one of those deals where you're in Amsterdam and to get to celebrate that with your teammates and all the people from USA Basketball, that was really cool.
Good stuff, man. So I got a couple more questions for you, and then we'll get into the really fun part of the podcast with our rapid fire questions. So now you're a college basketball analyst and color commentator for both ESPN and BTN, the Big Ten Network. When did that opportunity come calling for you?
So that kind of fell into my lap. So when I was in the NBA, there's a program called Sportscaster U, and it was at Syracuse. Now it's at USC, I believe. And it was like a weekend crash course in all things broadcasting. You called a game on TV. You called a game on radio. You did studio shows where at one point you were like on the main desk. For another one, you were on the side desk, or you were the reporter. And it was during the NBA Finals. So you were just reporting the finals. And we had a really interesting group. It was Amari Stoudemire, Randy Foye, Kalena Azubuike, myself, Danny Granger, Matt Bonner. I'm probably leaving out one or two more guys, but it's just, you were able to kind of see, am I good at this and do I like this? And I wasn't great, but I was like, decent. And I was like, I really like this. This is fun. So I had that on my belt. And then after I didn't get re-signed by Minnesota, after my second year in the NBA, I got a deal in Milan to play for Giorgio Armani's team. But unfortunately, in December, I was blocking out, and this guy ran to my shoulder, and he dislocated my shoulder, and I had to have surgery again. So when that happened, I have a friend of mine that's at Big Ten Network that I went to college with, and he kind of, I think, asked the president of BTN if they'd be interested in having me do some studio. And they were like, yeah, of course. We need some people for studios. That'd be great. So they offered me 10 studio dates, and I was just hanging out, not doing anything. And I really lucked out into this because my agent today is the same guy that saw me one of my first nights doing TV. He was a Michigan grad. So he saw me on TV and then reached out via Big Ten Network and was like, hey, would Robbie want to talk to me? And I was like, this production assistant or director or producer or whatever came up to me and asked me, would you want to talk to somebody that represents talent in television? And I was like, I'll talk to anybody. But I was like, this guy probably represents like nobody. If you want to talk to me, I've been on TV for like 3 times. And then it turns out he repped, like, at the time, Doris Burke and Dan Dockich and, Ian Eagle and all these people. And it's like, man, he reps some big names. So I kind of fell into that. And then I was playing in Russia my last year in Moscow. And I was so over it. I was like, I hate every day. My diet is abysmal. Like, I remember leaving practice and just going, we had drivers, all the Western players did, because they were afraid that the Russian police would shake us down. And, if you get pulled over, you don't speak any Russian.
Right.
Right. So I had a driver. This dude was like 28 years old. He like street race cars, and his dad was like a bigwig with the team. So he was hilarious. He spoke no English. So we could only talk on our phones, like on Google Translate.
Oh, geez.
So I leave practice and be like, take me to the mall. I'm going to Shake Shack. And I remember I'd get like 2 burgers, fries, root beer flow. I was like eating my feelings. Like, I was like, I hate every day. I just cannot be here anymore. So I told my basketball agent and my broadcasting agent, I want you guys to go out and get whatever you can and bring them to me. And I told my basketball agent, I don't want to go back to Europe. If I'm not in the NBA, I will retire. Like, I didn't have a bad season. I shot 48% from 3. I averaged like 9 or 10 points a game. I played well. But I don't know how, I wasn't like, my habits weren't good. So, and I didn't even recognize myself over there. It's like, you show up to practice last, you leave immediately. That's never who I was. And, I prided myself on really working on my game. So I knew it was time in that regard. And then I liked my options better on TV than I did playing wise. I had a workout with the Bucks, and I was getting ready for it. It was a group workout, and I threw my back out shooting. So I was like, this is a sign. Like, this is a sign from God that it's time. Like, it's time to hang it up. So I did, and honestly, it's been awesome. I've been able to play the 3-on-3 stuff in the summers. I do games in the winter from November to April, and I love doing it. I love calling college basketball games. I really have a passion for it. And, I always have. I love the NCAA tournament. I've watched so much Big Ten basketball growing up as a kid. So I think I have an appreciation for it. And I really enjoy being back in those environments and getting to kind of like feel kind of the atmosphere. I love calling games when it's a big environment and you can kind of just slip your headphone off and see, is it as loud as I think it is? And a lot of times it is, in our league, it's great.
Well, you're pretty damn good at it too, man. You really,
I appreciate that.
Because I think it was during the pandemic season, this past season, where, Michigan State had a really down year, up and down year, barely made the tournament. I don't know how we squeaked in, but we did. And we found a way. But the games that you were calling Michigan State, like, I enjoyed it because, like, the one thing I enjoy about your commentary is, like, you call it the way you call it the way you see it. Like, you're a realist. Whereas some guys in the past, like, they'll try to, like, dance around certain things, but no, like from a basketball knowledge and basketball perspective, like you are just dead on with things. And I think that's the one thing I've enjoyed about listening to you call games is that it is everything I just said. Whereas like, and I'm not going to knock on him where Dan Dockich, you know, if he's calling a Michigan State game, he's going to try and get on some of our guys that really he doesn't need to get on. Right. Whereas you talk about the style of basketball that's played. You talk about the moves that are played. And I said on Twitter, I said, if Michigan State's going to be bad this year, the one thing I'm going to enjoy about this game is Robbie Hummel's commentating because the dude is awesome. And you really are good at it, man.
I appreciate you saying that. I do enjoy it. And hopefully I can do it for a while. I think I definitely have a passion for the Big Ten and an appreciation for all the teams in the league. So I hope I get to do it. And I appreciate you saying that. It's very nice of you.
You're welcome, man. Now, my last question for you. So have you called any Purdue games in your career yet?
Oh, yeah. I've called a lot of them.
So the question is I have for you is you are a Purdue alum.
Yeah.
Played there. How hard is it for you to not be that Purdue rock guy at the table and wanting your team to win? Like, is that really hard for you to do because it's your program, it's your coach? And
I mean, in a way, yes, but and this is funny you asked that because when I was a player, Stephen Bardo was working for ESPN and he was calling one of our games. Mm-hmm. I asked him before the game because he was talking to me on the floor. So I know you played at Illinois. How do you like objectively call a game when you're doing it with Illinois playing? And he goes, Robbie, it's real easy. I remember exactly where my paycheck is coming from. That is a part of it. You're getting paid to objectively call the game. But at the same time, you know, it's funny to me because when I'm doing a Purdue game, a lot of the time, Purdue people actually are the ones that get upset. And they say that I overdo it. When in reality, I literally just call it the way I see it. Like I really do. I was fortunate this year. I called Indiana Purdue. Mm-hmm. And that was the first time I'd ever gotten to do the game. And I think initially, like Indiana's fans, just from what people were tweeting at me, were like not happy about it. But I do think that I try to call the game as objectively as I see it. Like if Indiana takes a bad shot, I'm going to say that. If Purdue takes a bad shot, I'm going to say that. Like I really will. And I think maybe my first year, it might have been hard for me, but I will say by now, and I really appreciate Coach Painter in the sense that I know that he doesn't give a shit what I say on TV. Like I could say basically whatever, and it's not going to face him one bit. But at the same time, he's just in our private conversations that I've had with him, he encourages me to be honest. Mm-hmm. If I think Purdue's shot selection is trash, say it. And there's some coaches that would not do that. There are some guys in college basketball that would be on the phone. Hey, I heard you said this. That would be really hard. So I'm fortunate that the guy that I played for is never going to call me and be like, yo, I heard you said this. Because he's pretty confident in his abilities as a coach, and he should be because he's really good. But B, you know, I think he wants me to do well too. And I'm not going to be good if I'm sugarcoating stuff so that I know my college coach isn't calling me, you know? Mm-hmm. So there's a couple different things that go into that, but it probably would have been hard for me my first year, but by now, a mixture of all those things, whether it's where's my paycheck coming from? I know Coach Painter's not calling me being like, why'd you say this? And I just think that if you're going to be any good, you've got to be objective. And I will say that as it's gone on, I've been able to kind of separate it, I think. You know, I'm always going to want Coach Paint to do well and Purdue to do well because I went there. Right. But when I'm doing their game and I honestly just want to see a good game. That's what's important to me. I want to see two teams play really good basketball, and hopefully we get a great finish. I think that's what you always root for when you're doing a game, and you can kind of separate that. I think when you gain some experience of doing the job.
And like I said, that's what I love about you, man. Like you're real, like you just call it the way it is, no matter if it's your alma mater or not. That's what I love about you, man. And I really do think that you got many, many great years ahead of you as a color commentator and as an analyst. And who knows, man, maybe you'll get to call, my two boys, in college one day. I mean, my 6-year-old's already shooting on a 10-foot men's ball. So
there you go. I look forward to that. Michigan State star.
Or he'll go to Purdue, whatever.
Or Purdue. There you go. But not Michigan, huh?
Oh, Well, it's funny you say that because my wife, I married a Wolverine fan.
Okay.
So we live in a house divided, but I brainwashed my kids early enough when they were like 3 and 4 years old to the point where they know the fight song and they refuse to say, Michigan chants. So I got ahead of the game when it came to that. So my wife surrendered. She was like, I can't do it. I'm like, all right. So I won that battle.
There you go.
So, all right, man, you ready to have some fun?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so we have 10 rapid fire questions here. They are goofy, serious, however you want to portray them. The first question I like to call the quote unquote the master's question because it is a tradition unlike any other. So question number 1, strawberry or grape jelly?
Strawberry.
All right. Question number 2.
And I will say my mom makes great strawberry jelly, strawberry jam.
Homemade? Okay. I like that. Question number 2, your favorite Big Ten arena you played in that is not Mackey Arena?
It would be the Breslin Center is right there, but for us, it's Assembly Hall in Bloomington, just because of the hatred you feel when you play there.
Yeah,
it is next level. And I love the Breslin Center, but it's got to be Indiana.
Absolutely. And my personal favorite has always been Mackey.
Yeah.
And part of the reason is because it's so damn loud in there. But 2, every time your guys' fight song is played, everybody stands, starts singing in unison. I'm like, you don't see this anywhere else, man.
Yeah, no, we do have great fans at Purdue. We're very.
You do. Question number 3, your favorite all-time athlete?
Michael Jordan, hands down. And Tiger Woods is second. But MJ, growing up in Valpo, during the 90s Bulls, it's definitely Michael Jordan. So
that was the greatest show on earth right there. It was the Chicago.
I got to see him play actually in person twice. So
really?
I feel fortunate that I got to do that.
That's pretty cool, man. Not a lot of people get to say they watched the greatest of all time playing in person.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
We sat in the nosebleeds, but we were there.
you were there. That's all that matters, man.
Yeah.
Question number 4, your favorite place to eat in West Lafayette?
I'm going to have to go Bruno's Pizza.
Okay.
The owner's a great guy, Orlando, and they have a lot of Purdue memorabilia there. So they have good pizza. He actually, whenever I've been there, I love, my mom makes really good also homemade pesto. So he makes me this like pesto pizza every time I'm there. And I appreciate that. So I'll go Bruno's.
All right. I'm going to West Lafayette in November because Michigan State football plays there. So,
nice.
So I'm going to go check out Bruno's, man.
There we go.
Question number 5, best motivational speaker not named Anthony Ianni.
Well, if I can't pick you, then I will go. You know who it might be actually. And I'm sure I'm leaving some people out, but Conzo Martin was an assistant my freshman year.
Okay.
And he would say stuff, and when he'd get done, he'd be like, "I am ready to run through a brick wall." So I'm gonna go with Zoe, and I'm sure I'm leaving some other people out who were really good motivators. But Conzo Martin is excellent.
I love it, man. Question number 6, which is more fun to watch, college basketball or college football?
Basketball. To me, and this is going to be like super negative on college football, I think the playoff has made it stink. I am so sick.
Yeah.
Alabama, Clemson, and then a mixture of like Oklahoma, Notre Dame,
Ohio State.
Ohio State is in there. It's the same teams every year. So I love the NCAA tournament. And I know the BCS wasn't perfect, but at least we got to see different people.
Yeah.
And the Bulls mattered more. So I just think that college basketball is so much better than college football. And I'm not guessing. I know the money doesn't say that from what people watch for the TV contracts, but I think that it sucks watching the same 3 teams and then a mixture of Notre Dame, Oklahoma, and Oregon play for the Final Four.
And I definitely agree with you on that. And as much as I love Alabama football, because, my dad's worked with Nick Saban in the past. They're good friends. And Coach Saban even wrote a blurb for my book, which will be available September 7th this fall. Yes, I did a quick little
as you should.
Quick little advertisement for my book Centered. But the one thing I've enjoyed about watching Alabama is just their consistency of being great every year, despite losing these great stars. But like you said, when it is Alabama, Clemson part 10, Alabama, Clemson part 11, it's like, okay, well, let's try and change some things up a bit. So, so I'm hopeful that down the road that maybe they expand it to 12, maybe
totally. And
but-
maybe that would help, because then you have more schools get into that scene of being on the national stage. But right now, you can bet Ohio State, Clemson, Alabama, they're going to be there. They're consistently in that Final Four.
Throw Oklahoma in there while you're at it too.
Yeah.
It's just those 4 every year, man.
I don't know.
Question number 7: between The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin, which one would you like to meet and why?
Probably The Rock, just because of his acting career afterwards.
Yeah.
If that didn't happen, maybe Stone Cold. I think wrestling's hilarious. And actually in Italy, when I played there, I watched a lot of it because it was on in English.
Okay.
Storylines and whatnot are really, really funny to me. But probably The Rock. I'd go with The Rock.
And he is a very inspirational dude too. And
Totally.
a lot of my speaking career. So before I started my speaking career, I watched Tony Robbins, I watched Eric Thomas, and then some people laugh at this. I studied The Rock when he was in WWE because I watched how he delivered his promos. I watched, how he was feeding off the energy of the crowd. I was like, you know what, like, I don't want to be like The Rock, but I want to get to that point where, okay, if I deliver a good speech, like I could just feel the vibe and the energy off the crowd. So definitely getting to, watch him was definitely a good experience. All right, 3 more questions for you. Question number 8, your dream vacation.
Dream vacation. I've never been to Hawaii, and I love to play golf.
Really?
I really want to play at Kapalua, because it's where they play that tournament, the Tournament of Champions, every January or February. So I'm going to go Hawaii because I've never been, and I think it looks awesome.
Solid choice. Question number 9, your favorite superhero.
That's hard. Probably just because I love the Dark Knight series so much, I'll go Batman. Because I think those are my favorite superhero movies. But he's really not that good of a superhero, like any powers, But those are my favorite movies, so Batman it is.
I love it. And last question number 10. Who do you admire the most?
Definitely my parents. I think the way that they raised my brother and I, and we're just at every game, didn't miss anything. They've been phenomenal. So I would say I admire my parents the most.
Awesome, man. All right. I do this with all my guests. I'm going to have you do it as well. What is your positive message of the week for the listeners? The floor is yours, my man.
All right. My positive message of the week is, I think, to go out, work hard, and appreciate the fact that you get to go out and do whatever you want, whether it's something you love, whether it's a hobby, whether it's your job that you really enjoy. I'm going to say just attack that with some real positivity and joy, and have a good week, and just be one of those people that spreads positivity. That's what I'm going to go with.
I love it, man. I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, he is one of the all-time greats at Purdue. He is a current ESPN and Big Ten Network analyst and color commentator. He is Robbie Hummel. Robbie, thank you so much for joining us, man. I really appreciate it. And I'm only going to say this once to you, man. Boiler up, my friend.
There we go. He said it. Thanks for having me, dude. Thank you.
I want to thank Robbie again for coming on to the show. It was just awesome to spend some time with him. And, like I told Robbie, it was great playing against him and during the years I had at Michigan State, but tonight was even more awesome, more of an honor to interview and talk to him because, I think that's the one thing I enjoy with all my guests is sitting down, getting to know my guests, their background and things they've been through in life. And I really wanted to get, more behind the scenes about Robbie Hummel. And again, I cannot thank him enough for doing that. It was just an awesome conversation we had. And like I said, this was a stacked month for guests. And I want to thank you guys so much for listening in. As the podcast was going on, I was trying to think more and more about what I wanted to say for my positive message of the week. And we are getting close to the beginning of the school year. Some of my listeners may be high school age students. Some of them may be college. Whoever you are, again, thank you for listening. But as we start the school year off, I want to send this message out to everybody. For those of you that know me, I'm a really big advocate. I do a lot of advocacy work in the anti-bullying community. And last year, there was school at home. Some people had school in person. And right now, some schools may do at home, some schools may do in person. We who knows? But to the young kids out there, this is my message for you. Treat others in your community and in your school how you want to be treated. You are part of something special in your community. We all are. We're all part of great communities. And we're all part of family. We all are part of something special at schools. The one thing, I've always enjoyed about being a Michigan State Spartan for life is that's what I am. I'm a Spartan. And I'm part of the Spartan family for life. And nobody can ever take that away from me. Just like with Robbie, he's part of the Boilermaker family at Purdue for life. Nobody can take that away from him. So for you young students out there, don't forget you're a part of something special. You're part of the same group. You're on the same team. You are part of a certain family at your school. Some of you may be part of the Bulldog family. Shout out to Mason. Some of you may be part of the Comet family. Shout out to Grand Ledge. The Viking family. Shout out to Hazlitt. Yeah, these are all schools in my hometown area. Or you may be a Charger. Shout out to Livonia Churchill here in Livonia. But again, you're all part of something special at your school. And that's why I've always told people, that's why you should respect everybody in your school and communities, because you're part of the same group and you're on the same team and you're part of that same family for life. It's the same message that I tell to all Spartans throughout the entire world. You're part of the Spartan family for life. For life. And guess what? You like each other, you don't like each other, you know each other, don't know each other, but you got something in common. You're a Spartan. So going into this school year, please treat each other with kindness and respect. Work hard in the classroom, because the harder you work, the more you earn. And just know you are a part of a family. You are part of something special at your school. You may like somebody at your school, you may not. You may know somebody you don't. But guess what? You're still part of that same group. And you're on the same team. You are part of that family for life. And to the college football teams, I wish everybody nothing but the best of luck. To all the teams in the Big Ten, Michigan State's coming for you. I'm super excited for college football this year. And I know all my listeners are too. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will see you again next month for some incredible guests and for our next round of guests in September. We will talk to you guys again soon. Thank you guys so much for listening. Peace and love, everybody. Thank you.
Anytime you're shortcutting it, you're probably cheating some people. Players play. Tough players win.